Good morning, happy Valentine's Day, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces, where your center is still alive and well in our hearts, and where our vision is a world in loving partnership for the good of all. I'm Reverend Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here at the center. And first of all, I would like to give my love and condolences to Reverend Terry Lund's family. Reverend Terry Lund was the Unity Minister Emeritus here in town, and she passed away Saturday, February 6th. She is already truly missed, and we just want to bless her along her journey. Our weekly spiritual circle discussion groups continue on Wednesdays at 11, so please let the office know if you're interested in joining and you don't have the link to do so. Our newsletter is also filled with opportunities to join in workshops and events online with others in the New Thought community around the country, so you can call our office if you need to be added to our email list to receive the newsletter. Our practitioner, Teresa Valenzuela, is facilitating the Association for Global New Thought Season for Nonviolence weekly discussion and meditations via Zoom. And again, the link for that is in our newsletter. This is Sundays between now and April 4th from 1 to 2 p.m., and you are welcome to join any Sunday that you are able. I will be starting another Roots class the beginning of March, so please call the office. We have 3 options for times and days, so please call them for that information and let them know what you prefer. We believe in the principle of circulation and prosperity, and therefore we are a tithing community. And this month, 10% of all that we receive through your tithes and offerings are being tithed to Casa de Peregrinos. It is a nonprofit organization committed to alleviating hunger and distributing nutritious food to over 30,000 people a year. They have been hit particularly hard during this pandemic due to fundraisers in the past that they had to cancel, and food donations from some stores have diminished, and an increase of families are now needing food. Therefore, it is our great pleasure to give to Casa de Peregrinos, whose motto is food for today and hope for tomorrow. Before I move on, I would like to invite up our board president, Bob Greer, to give you a report from our last meeting on February 7th.
Good morning. My name is Bob Greer, and I'm honored to serve as your board president. I'm here to give you a report for the February Board of Trustees meeting that we just had. First off, I'm pleased to report that our center is continuing to thrive and prosper. We are grateful for our congregation and friends of the center that continue to send in their tithes and offering, which allows us to make our monthly obligations, and we're very grateful for that as always. As I previously reported, we applied and received a PPP loan last year as part of the relief package that was out there. We were given a loan in the amount of $8,580, and that has we applied to have it forgiven, and that was finally taken care of. So that loan has been paid off essentially, and now we're in the process of applying for a second PPP loan, which we've gotten approval on. And we hope to have that processed very soon. That's in the amount of $8,790, and you know, every bit helps, and we're grateful to have it. So, also projects that we're working on. We're in the process of having the floors at the center cleaned, sealed, and re-waxed in anticipation of the day that we start to be able to meet again. And also we're exploring replacing the windows in the front and the rear of the building, which are way overdue for replacement. And I'd like to give a special thank you to Doug Benson and Karen Boyer, board member, for doing all the work on this. It's quite a project, and Doug has helped us by doing all the architectural drawings and specifications, which should help us tremendously when it comes time to review bids and everything. Lastly, I just want to let you know we have 2 upcoming positions on the board, and that we will be looking to fill here in the spring. And We are in the process of interviewing and reviewing candidates right now, but if you have an interest in serving on the board, please contact the office and get in touch with either Reverend Bonnie or myself, and we can have a conversation about that. So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'd like to welcome our practitioner in service today, Martha Ward.
Good morning. I'm Martha Ward, and as your practitioner in service, I want to remind you that the practitioners are available to pray with you over the phone. If you do not have their phone numbers, call the office and we will have a practitioner call you back. Don't forget our prayer request button on our website so you can still send in your prayer request. The confidential request goes directly to a practitioner, and we will continue to pray with you from our homes as we Zoom together at our usual time on Tuesday afternoons. Now it is time for song, silence, and prayer.
In this moment, I am loved. Love is this moment. Love, love, love. This moment is what I am. In this moment, I am truth. Truth is this moment. Truth, truth, truth. This moment is what I am. In this moment, I am still. Still is this moment. Still, still, still. This moment is what I am.
On this glorious Valentine's Day, we're drawn to recall and turn our attention to that love element, that love energy that is spirit. And as we open our own hearts, we allow the flow of this love in through us and out into the world, filling us continuously with this divine flow, outward and inward. We keep this flow of energy, life, going through us, touching the lives of all of those with whom we come into contact, and extending outward to cover the entire planet. And so it is. The reading from this morning is from the Daily Word for January and February of 2021. And in particular, it's for today, Sunday, February 14th, entitled Heart Expression. You are dear to me. I hold you in my heart. Sharing love is a wonderful way of discovering and responding to the divinity alive in every heart, binding us as a human family. My loving nature helps me see the best in every person whose life touches me. Today, I remember one of the legends of St. Valentine in which he fashioned pieces of parchment into hearts, which he gave to others, as tokens of his compassion and God's love. Today, the tradition continues. When I say, "You are dear to me," I hold you in my heart, with a card, gift, call, or simple act of kindness. I share love with no expectation of reciprocation, and my heart welcomes every expression of love from others. Love's energy grows through both giving and receiving. And so it is.
Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. Nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. Everybody now. All you need is love. All together. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. 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 Love is all you need.
And our speaker today is Reverend Amari Magdalena. She's an ordained minister and minister director in the Universal Brotherhood movement since 1993. She has devoted the past 30 years to teaching, writings, and healings utilizing ancient healing wisdom, shamanism. Reverend Amari is the author of 8 books on various aspects of living in our challenging social structures and coming to peace. Originally, Reverend Amari hails from Holland, Michigan, though most of her adult life has been spent in the Southwest and the West. In November of 2019, she returned to New Mexico and chose Las Cruces as her base. She often jokes that New Mexico is like the song, "The Hotel California." You can check out, but you can never leave. Thus, she is back and very happy to be here amongst our wonderful community, and we are so grateful to have her as a part of our community. So please help me welcome in your hearts and minds, Reverend Amari Magdalena.
Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Feliz Dia del Amor. I'm very happy to be here and share this heart-filled day with you. And I'd like to start with a little Hopi prophecy that I think speaks to us. When the earth is sick and the wild animals are disappearing, a tribe made of people from all cultures will come to say with deeds, not with words, that love is the source of healing and will help restore life on the planet. And I suggest that we're that tribe, and that the path that we're on is guiding us on one journey, and that journey is universal love. For one great truth is that the very nature of our soul is love. That is the constant. That higher heart within us is the constant in our life through all the travels, all the journeys. It is the divine aspect of our soul. So we're going to talk a little bit about love. The title of this talk was Love Actually Is All Around Us, because it is. And yet some people would sing Tina Turner's song, What's Love Got to Do with It? So I just want to share a few things. The word is bandied around a lot, yet what does it mean? As a noun, it speaks to an intense feeling of deep affection, fondness, tenderness, warmth, intimacy, endearment. A secondary definition is a person or a thing that one loves. The verb means feeling a deep romantic or sexual attraction to someone. It's a very powerful word, and most of us are happy to hear it spoken or to speak it to someone that we care about. Yet in the context of evolving intense feelings, perhaps it's being overused. Of course, we may have many kinds of love, which I will address in a moment. Consider the perfunctory I love you, said to our friends and family at the end of a conversation with regularity. Are we feeling deeply connected with this person? Or do we feel some obligation to say the words because they're nice to hear, or we feel the other person needs them? In a country like ours, whose main culture for many years, since the European occupancy, takeover, and nation building eschewed depth of emotions, perhaps we've grown used to being light in our expression of feelings and not explored the depth of our affection, our fondness, etc. Except for the proclamation of love in the throes of passion, we may be failing the course Love 401, which is the graduate course. On the other hand, perhaps we're not wanted to look at incongruity between the spoken I love you and the actions that demonstrate that depth of feeling. Maybe we're settle for words without the resultant actions because we're fearful of disconnection. I sometimes speak with students about the infinity sign of a giving and a flowing of love, and our intention in this living is to establish that smooth flow of giving and receiving love. What if we challenge those who say the words and don't demonstrate the depth of affection that might naturally follow with such a declaration? Are we accepting crumbs when it's our desire to have the whole cake? Are we settling for less to spare confrontation, or worse, recognizing that love in this instance is a plus none zero? How many people can you honestly say you've loved or loved deeply in this world? If the count is limited to the fingers on one hand, are you content with that number? Have you reached your full potential in this lifetime for real loving? And if not, ask yourself why not? Are you willing to move more deeply into giving and receiving of affection, fondness, tenderness, warmth, intimacy, attachment, and endearment? And a couple other questions. How does one demonstrate deep love? Is there a formula for the recipe for any types of love that we might pattern our own love after? Do we truly love the people that we say we do, or are we going through expected societal motions? Is what we're giving reciprocated in kind, not necessarily all the time, but most? Or do we even have a clue as to what is the quotient of love in our lives? These are some tough questions, but I think it's important for us to ask them. This is an invitation for all of us to look at love in our lives, to examine the quality and quantity of love that we are feeling and willing to give and receive. To do this, we have to be willing to be deeply honest and be as vulnerable, that special word vulnerable, as we trust ourselves to be. I know that Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability, and I think it's a really important quality. We talk about sometimes our ability to give love, but we may be blocked in receiving. So the vulnerability, that just making ourselves available, is such an important quality. If we're willing to undertake this task of examining love, then I invite you to use kind sight rather than hindsight. This is a word I found somewhere on the internet, and I really want to ask us to embrace it. Are we being kind when we look at the deficiency of ourselves or others, or are we looking through the lens of judgment and regret? Are we willing to explore with those in our lives who are perfunctory lovers how we might become better at loving one another? Are we willing to release those people who are incapable of loving us? Are we willing to love and let go? And finally, are we willing to be much better lovers for those in our lives who do show up with deep love and deep caring? What is the reward for such a in-depth exploration? Perhaps more authenticity and potentially an expanded capacity for feeling deeply and lovingly. What's love got to do with it? Everything. Where is love? Everywhere. And as the song proclaims, let there be love on earth and let it begin with me. So I'm going to share with you some things that some people that you may know have said about love, and you can take them in and perhaps look at that. This is an anonymous quote, but I liked it very much. If each mortal could only become a focus of dynamic affection, this benign virus of love would soon pervade the sentimental, emotional stream of humanity to such an extent that all civilization would be encompassed by love, and that would be the realization of the brotherhood of man. I really like that quote. It's really inviting us to infect ourselves with that virus of love. Imagine that instead of COVID-19, if we had a virus of love, we were so filled with love that everyone we touched, all that we encompass, could embrace love. Mother Teresa said, let us always meet one another with a smile, for a smile is the beginning of love. And Oscar Wilde said, keep love in your heart. A life without it is like a sunless garden when the flowers are dead. And Helen Keller said, love is like a beautiful flower which I may not touch, but whose fragrance makes the garden a place of delight just the same. And Lou Buscaglia, who's done a lot of writing in the spiritual realms, said, love is life, and if you miss love, you miss life. Barbara DeAngelis said, love is a force more formidable than any other. It is invisible, it cannot be measured, yet is powerful enough to transform you in a moment and offer you more joy than any material possession could. Jim Morrison of The Doors said something that I think is quite profound. Friends can help each other. A true friend is someone who lets you have total freedom to be yourself, and especially to feel or not to feel. Whatever you happen to be feeling at the moment is fine with them. That's what real love amounts to, letting a person be what he or she really is. And Dr. Joyce Brothers, who is well known for her comments on relationships, said, love comes when manipulation stops, when you think more about the person than about his or her reactions to you, when you dare to reveal yourself fully, when you dare to be, that word again, vulnerable. And Hugh Prather, who was my neighbor in Tucson and whose book, Notes to Myself, took me on a journey of a 180-degree turn in my life in my 30s. He was observing about a new friendship with a lady named Laurel, and he said new friendships seem to typify a dialect that may be that is true of his new relationships. And what he said is, at first we saw each other's virtues. Now we're only seeing each other's faults. If we make it through the latter stage, then maybe we will see each other and truly be friends. And that's a quote I used at my oldest son's wedding, because I think that is so true for a lot of our romantic relationships, that we're madly in love in the beginning, and then we find out that what was gold is dross, and we leave instead of waiting for that latter stage. Gautama Buddha said, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself, and that person is not to be found anywhere. You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Thomas Aquinas said, love takes up where knowledge leaves off. And Mary Baker Eddy, who so influenced Ernest Holmes, said, love is not love unless it has expression. just as the sun is not to be the sun without sunshine. And again, repeating what Martha shared with you, Yeshua ben Joseph said to his disciples, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another." So let's talk about love. The Greeks said there were 7 different kinds of love. The first is eros, or love of the body. And it was thought that Eros was the Greek god of love and sexual desire. He was shooting golden arrows into the hearts of both mortals and immortals without warning. And the Greeks feared that that kind of love could be dangerous and could get them in the most trouble. And I think some of us know that that's true. It can get us in a lot of trouble. Eros is defined as divine beauty or lust. Eros is mainly based on sexual attraction, and it is where the term erotica came from. So I'm going to share a little quote from a book that I used to love. I really loved Merle Shane's writings on relationships, and this was in one of her books, and it's drawn from the play Waiting by Jack Winter, and it sort of speaks to the eros. And this is an old man is speaking. Love. Now love is another thing. Normally speaking, there's your 4 kinds. First, there's your light fast. The sort as happens on a train or swimming or in a movie. Takes a lot of cheerfulness, does your light fast. And then there's your heavy fast. That's the sort as happens in a war. Happened to a nurse and me just beside the field kitchen till the cook leaned out and cast slops. Or was that light fast? No, maybe to her, as she soon proved by going over the hill with the cook. But to me, it was just your old light. To me, it was more serious than that. And then and caused me some trouble. Then there's your light slow. That's the best of the lot. Like 2 swallows of wine on the top of a pain pill. I only had your light slow once and she left, but that didn't stop it. And then there's your heavy slow. That's the sort that spoils bad habits. I know a man got so improved in your old heavy slow that he married her. Haven't seen him since, of course, but I heard he's not dead. So I hope you find that as amusing as I do, because I think eros is the thing that our culture spends so much time promoting. And it's an important part of love, but it's not the whole thing. Philia is number 2, and that's the love of mind. It's also known as brotherly love. Philia represents a sincere and platonic love, the kind of love you have for your brother or a really good friend. It's more valuable and more cherished than eros. Philia exists when people share the same values and dispositions with someone, and the feelings are reciprocated. I was very fortunate in 2019 to meet a man through a spiritual singles online offering, and we began to correspond and talked on Skype and some of the other media. And we talked, I think we began in maybe April or March or April, and by July, he was actually a retired oncologist. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And so we went on this journey after that of continuing our conversations. And the beauty of it was that it developed into a great philia love. And it was, I never met him. We only saw each other on Skype. But he touched my soul, and I believe I touched his, and it was beautiful. So I would wish that for everybody. Ludus is playful love. That's flirtatious. It's a teasing kind of love, the love most accompanied by dancing or laughter. It's the childlike and fun part of love. If you think about it, this particular generation loves ludus more than anything else. And again, I can only speak from personal experience of ludus. I've had a couple of wonderful flirtations that lasted about an hour, and they were the best ever because you never got to the point where you disliked each other or saw each other's faults. And so it was fun, and I think that we could use some more of that. Then we have pragma, which is long-lasting love. And it's the everlasting love between a married couple, which develops over a long period of time. Pragma was the highest form of love, the true commitment that comes from understanding, from compromise and tolerance. It's pragmatic, and it's said to be standing in love rather than falling in love. It grows over time, and it requires profound understanding between the lovers who have been together for many years. And my heart is warmed when I see an older couple that have been together for a very long period of time, holding hands or embracing, because I know that they have moved through those stages and reached that deeper connection. The next one is agape, love of the soul. It's a selfless kind of love, the love for humanity. It's the closest to unconditional love, the love you give without expecting anything in return, reflected in all charitable acts. It's the compassionate love that makes us sympathize with, help, and connect to people we don't know. And we know that our world could certainly use more agape. And again, from a personal experience, I chose once to love someone that could not reciprocate. And it was a grand experience. And what I discovered is that sometimes when we say we miss love in our lives, we're missing giving love, not so much receiving it, but we're missing that act of giving love. Philasha is the love of self. That's the sixth of the kinds of love. And the ancient Greeks divided philasha into two kinds. There's one that's pure selfish, and it seeks pleasure, fame, and wealth, often leading to narcissism. And again, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of narcissism in our lives. We've become more of an I, me, mine country than an us country, and it would serve us well to return to us. And the other is a healthy kind of self-love. And we say that philasha is essential for any relationship because we can only love others if we have a font of life, of love and life to give to someone. And the seventh of the stages of love is called storge, and it's the love that parents naturally feel for their children. It's based on natural feelings and effortless love. Storge is the love that knows forgiveness, acceptance, and sacrifice. It's the one that makes you feel secure, comfortable, and safe. So if we were to take all these seven forms of love and discover the kind that we have experienced or not, we would incorporate eros, ludus, and pragma into our relationships, and agape, philia, and storge into our lives. And doing that, we would reach philancha and live a much happier life. And I feel that's so important because when we say nobody loves me, and my mother used to do the little nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to go out in the garden and eat worms, or if I was crying about something. And I think that it's up to us to invite this love, and it begins in here. This self-love is one of the most important things that we're going to experience in this life. And I believe that in the book Passages, Gail Sheehy talked about an experience of discovering that the only person who was always going to be there was herself. She was in a very dangerous situation. And I've thought about that a lot in our lives because the one person that's always going to be with us is us. So it's so important that we begin to love ourselves, begin to acknowledge and love it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And some of you may be asking the question, so why do we have fractured relationships? Why do we fail to see the love that's around us? And it gets back to we don't love ourselves sufficiently. Thus we look for what I call compensatory relationships, not complementary relationships. We're hoping that the object of our affection will make up for our perceived self-deficiencies. When we first fall in love, we often feel like the world is magical. Everything takes on a rose-colored gold glow about us. But we imagine the person is everything we've ever dreamed of, and yet it's a delusion. The love that we're feeling is actually mirroring the love about ourselves. It's showing us that we are lovable. The middle part of the grand illusion, as my friend Hugh Prather stated, is when we start seeing the other person's fault, when that gold turns to dross, and we become majorly disappointed and often end a budding relationship. Rarely do we go through this phase to reach philasha and deep love. So it goes back to self-love. For some, the perception of love or lack began very early, even in utero. Those fetuses that are carried in a very stressful relationship with a lot of regret about the pregnancy are actually taking that energy in. I know that for some people that may be shocking, but as we know, babies are comfortable with the heartbeat of the mother They're comfortable with the sounds of the people that are around in their lives, so they know them once they come out. For others, the lack of love may come at birth. Easier births generally create happier mothers who are accepting. Difficult births, sometimes the acceptance is a lifelong story of how they suffered. I know my dear late mother-in-law had a very challenging birth with a middle child, and I heard that story over and over again. And I felt like I wouldn't want to be her son receiving that, because it sounds like you created a great problem in my life. But I know she loved him. She kept sharing that. So then we also are aware that an easy baby gets a lot of attention, a lot of the goo-goo gaga and aren't they darling, and a fussy baby that's going to scream all night long gets, eventually the parents may be worn down a little and they begin to complain a little bit about the baby. They don't mean to be bad about it, but they're just worn down, and that baby is receiving those messages. And that may continue on, so that in childhood we're receiving not okay messages. And unfortunately, too many people are receiving those. And the net result of that is that we feel unloved. So most of the messages in that environment are judgmental and less than loving. And we decide that we're not worthy of love. Messages of acceptance and love prepare us for a life in which we truly appreciate ourselves, all warts, moles, and all. I do a lot of accounting. People know this. I have since I was 12 years old, disgustingly. And in accounting, we have what we call a T account. And on the left side of the T account, my left, your left, are all of our assets. And on the right side are our liabilities, and the balancing thing is our equity. So if we are making a list about ourselves and saying, oh, I like these things, and I don't like those things, but the things we don't like, those liabilities are much longer than the assets, the balance is a negative self-esteem. In my book, Awaken Your Inner Personas, Transform Your Life, I spend a lot of time talking about a process that is very shamanic in nature, but I think it is very worthwhile for helping us build self-esteem. And what it suggests is that we have 4 personas within ourselves. We have the little girl, the little boy, the adult woman, and the adult male. And when we begin to do healing work with those 4 personas, we begin to heal. So we say that if I'm a woman, then my balancing west shield is the man, the inner man. And that is where I gain my knowing and intuition from. Whereas my north shield, my adult woman, her activity tends to be more judgment, more common sense, kind of strictness, and sometimes she acts as the judge in our lives. The little girl, if you're a woman, the little girl was the wounded child and tends to be very emotional and not feeling loved. But the little boy is the offset for her, who teaches her to play and lighten up. It's much more involved in that, but so many of the students that studied with me found that to be some of the best work that they did, because when we work with our opposite gender adult, we bring in common sense, but we temper that with intuition, and we begin to release the judge and victim role that many, many people are. I see this evidenced all the time. People that don't love themselves, either they'll judge all of their behavior negatively, or they'll find someone in their life to play the judge. And that results in a very out of balance relationship. And I think in my own life, we can only speak from our own lives, people wondered, why did this very talented young woman pick such awful relationships? And it was because of very poor self-esteem, based on the judgment and the messages that I was getting. Whatever I did for my parents, I was the first child, and I think the first child is always the guinea pig. You're the one that they practice on. Nothing was ever quite good enough. I mean, I would get honors, I would do all these things, but it was like somehow I didn't live up to some inner potential report card that they had. And it took me a long time to get over that and to learn to love myself and get past it. And eventually, as we have many of these realizations, after my mother died, I finally got it. And what I got was she was projecting through me what she wanted to occur in her life. And it wasn't about me. That was very healing. So all of us have wonderful qualities, and we have some doozies of things that we don't care for. And the secret I've discovered is to love yourself in totality without judgment. Perhaps you'll decide to work on the things you're fond of, and yet remain unconditionally loving toward yourself, because we cannot give what we don't have. If we do not love ourselves unconditionally, there's no way we can love another that way. But from the font of unconditional self-love, we're capable of loving other people without judgment, or demanding what I call terms of endearment, or positioning ourselves in relationships to have the emotional upper hand. This is when we become able to experience all of the 7 kinds of love, and we actually begin to enjoy life. As I told my stepfather when he was passing, I said, "Dad, I believe when we get out of here, we're going to be laughing at all of the places that we got stuck, that we agonized, that we denied ourselves and others the love that each of us deserve." And now, almost 8 decades later, I realize, this is 8 decades of my life, that this place was intended, this earth experience, this body experience, was intended to be a Garden of Eden, and we, the lucky recipients of the gift of life and love. So my friends in Center for Spiritual Living and Unity, and anyone that's watching this, please don't waste another day. Greet that person in the mirror with love, and take every single opportunity to love those who show up in your lives. And know that even if some people leave us in any way, that the love that we shared never dies, ever. Choose the path of love every day. Spread some of it around in a world that so much needs it. And I'm going to quote something from Alan Cohen that strikes me as important. To love yourself right now, just as you are, is to give yourself heaven. Don't wait until you die. If you wait, you die now. If you love, you live now. So then I'm going to share a couple of things that I share with couples that I'm going to perform their wedding ceremony. I discuss with them the 4 deadly sins of relationships and the 4 heavenly virtues of relationships. And I want you to take this in for yourself also, not just your partners. The 4 deadly sins are comparisons, competition, complaints, and criticisms. The 4 heavenly virtues are compassion, compliments, compromise, and cooperation. And then to ask yourself the question, what's more important, your love or your rules? And then also I have every couple do the 5 love languages, because what happens in many relationships is that we love the way we want to be loved, and not necessarily the way someone in our life wants to be loved. And so by identifying your love language and learning it, you can begin to help one another. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. You can find that 5 love languages survey or test, whatever you want to call it, online. And I think it's important, even if you've been in a long relationship and you have some feelings that maybe things aren't as loving as they could be, find out how your partner wants to be loved, and tell your partner how you want to be loved. So we're going to move into a little exercise, sort of a meditation. I'm going to invite you, wherever you are, to begin to focus on your heart. Close your eyes and place your hand on your heart, and place one hand on the hara. The hara is that area below your belly button, and it's a very powerful part of the body. And as you've heard the bell, I invite you to say to yourself, body, speech, and mind, in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the heavens awaken from their forgetfulness and transcend the path of all anxieties and sorrows. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind is calm, my body is relaxed, a smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, I go back to the island of mindfulness, and in the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully. And continuing to focus on your heart with your hand on your heart and your eyes closed, I'd like you to breathe into your heart. Take a deep breath in, filling it with love, and exhaling gently, and keep doing that as you recall a positive feeling at a particular time in your life. It can be a person, a place, or a thing. What we're looking for is a feeling of appreciation or care towards an animal, a person, a plant, an activity. Just allow yourself, breathing in and breathing out, that feeling of appreciation. And continue to breathe in and out for a time, focusing on appreciation or care that you have for someone or something. And then, as we know that love can grow in our hearts and expand outside our physical body, I want you to imagine that there's a golden pink light that is now all around you from your heart breathing, and I want you to begin to send that out into the world, everywhere that you can think of, without boundaries, across the entire earth globe. And next, I want you to think about some words that are related to love. Acceptance. Each of us would like to feel accepted in this world. Acknowledgement. We'd like to be acknowledged for being, not for our accomplishments so much, but just for being who we are. Appreciation. Appreciation is an important aspect. It's also important not to attach too much energy to it, but appreciate others and appreciate yourself. Compassion. Gautama Buddha focused on compassion, that when we have a compassionate heart, we attract more of that in our lives. Embrace. It's something that we're really missing right now, not being able to hug and hold all the people we'd like to. Forgiveness is another aspect of love, that to be a loving being of ourselves and others, we need to forgive. Loving kindness, I mentioned earlier, kind sight, viewing the world around us and extending ourselves, loving kindness. Patience. Love is patient. It takes time to develop. Peace. When we feel love in our environment, we come to greater peace. Softness. In a world that is sometimes hard, it's important to remember to soften ourselves. Thoughtfulness. We tend to bloom when we feel that people are thoughtful. Tranquility. Feeling that ease in our lives. Understanding, feeling that we are understood and that we understand. Unselfishness, those acts of love when perhaps they can't be immediately reciprocated. And validation. Validation assures us that we're here, that we're present, and that people see us and they hear us. And so in closing, I want you to imagine that you're in front of a mirror. And closing your eyes, you begin to say to the mirror, as you open your eyes, seeing yourself in a new light, Holy Spirit, allow me to see the beauty that I am without and within. Help me to love myself unconditionally, without judgment. Your radiance manifests through me and is present within me at all times. My body is your temple and a vehicle for your work. It is, therefore, deserving of love, respect, and honor. This day and always, help me to honor my body, to love it unconditionally, and to be grateful for its service. and follow that with every cell in my body vibrates with health, vitality, and youth. Every day, in every way, I am better and better. I am wealth, I am abundance, I am joy. I invite you to build such a font of love and joy that it overflows and surrounds all you encounter, bringing them into a loving state of being. In the mirror today, say, I love you on Valentine's Day, and keep saying it until your subconscious mind receives it, integrates it, and builds that great font of love and joy that you share with others. My love goes out to each and every one of you watching. May you be most blessed, and I thank you. And so it is.
You think that people would have had enough of silly love songs? But I look around me and I see it isn't so. Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. And what's wrong with that? I'd like to know. 'Cause here I go again. I love you. I love you. I love you. I can't explain the feelings plain to me. Now can't you see? Oh, you give me more, you give it all to me. Now can't you see what's wrong with that? I need to know. 'Cause here I go again. I love you. I love you. Love sometimes comes in a minute. Sometimes you don't feel it at all. I only know that when I'm in it, love isn't silly. No, it isn't silly. Love isn't silly at all. Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. And what's wrong with that?
So once again, thank you for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day. May you feel all the love that is surrounding you. Stay safe. I love you all.